안녕하세요. 네, 24장 Laurel Doll, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 24장 44일차 낭독, 예습 낭독을 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, Chapter 24 Veruca in the nut room. Mr. Wonka rushed on down the corridor. The nut room is set on the next door. They came to. All right, said Mr. Wonka. Stop here for a moment and catch your breath and take a peek through the glass panel of this door. But don't go in. Whatever you do, don't go into the nut room. If you go in, you will disturb the squirrels. Everyone crowded around the door. Oh, look, Grandpa, look, cried Charlie. Squirrels, shouted Veruca Salt. Zippers, said Mike TV. It was an amazing sight. 100 squirrels were seated upon high stools around a large table. On the table there were mounds and mounds of walnuts, and the squirrels were all working away like mad, shelling the walnuts at a tremendous speed. These squirrels are specially trained for getting the nuts out of the walnuts, Mr. Wonka explained. Why use squirrels? Mike TV asked. Why not use Oompa Loompas? Because, said Mr. Wonka, Oompa Loompas can't get walnuts out of the walnut shells in one piece. They always break them in two. Nobody except squirrels can get walnuts whole out of the walnut shells every time. It is extremely difficult. But in my factory, I insist upon using only whole walnuts. Therefore, I have to have squirrels to do the job. Aren't they wonderful? The way they get those nuts out? And see how they first tap each walnut with their knuckles to be sure it's not a bad one. If it's bad, it makes a hollow sound and they don't bother to open it. They just throw it down the garbage chute. There, look. Watch that squirrel nearest to us. I think he's got a bad one now. They watched the little squirrel as he tapped the walnut shell with his knuckles. He cocked his head to one side, listening intently. Then suddenly he threw the nut over his shoulder into a large hole in the floor. Hey, Mummy, shouted Veruca Salt. Suddenly, I've decided I want a squirrel. Get me one of those squirrels. Don't be silly, sweetheart, said Mrs. Salt. These all belong to Mr. Wonka. I don't care about that, shouted Veruca. I want one. All I've got at home is 2 dogs and 4 cats and 6 bunny rabbits and 2 parakeets and 3 canaries and a green parrot and a turtle and a bowl of goldfish and a cage of white mice and a silly old hamster. I want a squirrel. All right, my pet, Mrs. Salt said smoothly. Mummy will get you a squirrel just as soon as she possibly can. 여기까지인가요? 좀 더 가는 것 같아요. But I don't want any old squirrel, Veruca shouted. I want a trained squirrel. 네, 여기까지네요. 네, 어디까지인지 종이책에서 계속 보고 있어가지고 네, 여기까지 되겠습니다. squirrel 되게 많이 나오는 단어가 되겠습니다. 내일 또 만나서 읽어보도록 할게요. 감사합니다. 안녕.